Phenomenal. All right, cool. All right, well, welcome everyone, online and otherwise, to our session with Brian. I just wanted to say a few words about PolyAI at the start. My name is Nikola Mrkšić. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of the company. PolyAI is a London-based, at this point, Anglo-American company, building voice assistants for customer service that run over the phone. We are a specialized provider of voice assistants, and we do them like no one else. We're able to build things really quickly and automate the vast majority of inbound and some outbound calls coming into contact centers in different sectors. We specialize in hospitality and financial services. Some of our largest clients are leading hospitality providers in the US and in the UK. Happy to be at HITEC and to speak a bit about our deployment with Golden Nugget, which has really been one of our favorites and one of the most exciting things we've done, and I think delivered pretty fast. It's always good to work in hospitality because it's really customer facing, and it is also really appealing to us from that perspective because it's a revenue generating thing rather than kind of like cost cutting, which we tend to see in some of the other sectors. Just a bit about maybe the history of PolyAI for those kind of like chiming in. We are a Cambridge spinout. We've worked on building voice assistants since 2006, long before it was popular. Our previous company was acquired by Apple to make Siri more conversational. And with PolyAI, we've really gone deep into creating phenomenal experiences for end consumers of large brands. With that, I'll kind of stop boring the audience and pass it over to these two gentlemen that have really made the case study that you're about to see happen.
Fantastic, thanks. So my name is Brad Stein, I head up solutions consulting for the company. Work very closely with Brian from Golden Nugget. So Brian, you just do a quick intro.
Brian Jeppesen, Golden Nugget, Landry's Golden Nugget Reservations, Director of Contact Center. So.
Fantastic. So PolyAI and Landry has been working pretty closely together over the last couple of months to build a virtual agent, which is basically responsible for automating inbound contact to the contact center. So today, Brian's going to help us out talking about some of the challenges that he faced within the contact center, some of the vendor selection that he went through, and then some of the results. And then what we'll do is we'll look at playing you guys a live demo of some of the calls that we've done today, and then yeah, get your feedback. So great. So Brian, do you want to talk us through some of the challenges that you had and why you kind of considered conversational AI and automation?
Sure. So obviously everybody was impacted this last year when with the pandemic hit. Our casinos, we have 5 casinos. All of our casinos shut down. Our restaurants, everything was pretty much shut down. And so during that time, we were down for a couple of months. We determined that I had a call center in Las Vegas that handled our incoming PBX calls. And we determined at that time we were going to consolidate. When we opened back up again, we were going to consolidate everything into our Houston office. And we were just going to hire agents in Houston to handle those calls. Well, when everything opened back up, we didn't think it would open as quickly as it did, and we got a big influx of calls. We also didn't understand that we going to have the staffing challenges that we experienced as everybody. So we weren't able to staff, and we had this high number of calls coming in. So I spoke to my CFO and I said, hey, we can't continue to just throw bodies at this solution. We need to find another option. And that's what we started looking at. I convinced him to start looking into potentially some AI to be able to handle some of our basic calls. And so we wanted to do a proof of concept. And we went out and we started to look at several diligence with several companies. Poly was one of them. But one of my biggest concerns, to start off initially, it had to be a good experience, right? I didn't want it to be like a robot. I didn't want it to sound like, we've all listened to a lot of different AIs where it sounds like a robot, right? So had to be good conversational and a good experience for our customers, number one. And so we did some diligence and we listened to a lot of them, and really it came back down to going back to Poly, because nobody that we reviewed had the voice quality, the experience. It just sounded like a real person and dealing with a real person. In fact, what I ended up doing is I sent them recordings of about 10 recordings of my best agent, And I said, this is what I want. And they came back with somebody who sounded exactly like my best agent. So it worked out perfectly for us. We at that point we jumped in to start doing a demo with our PBX calls, which is a fairly simple calls, people calling in and asking either to transfer somebody or had general questions. And so we said, let's do a demo to see if that works. And I was hoping to get about 40 to 50% capture within that solution. And from day one, it would take about 4 weeks to get that. And probably in the 4 weeks it took us to ramp that up. 3 of those weeks were delays because of internally our IT people internally, because Poly was always ready and willing and really on top of everything. But when we kicked it off day one to go, it handled 87% of those calls, and it far exceeded my expectations for what we did. And so then we started to from there to say, okay, if this works, where can we go from there? So.
Yeah, so I mean, really down to the technology. So when we got engaged with Gold Nugget, we did a lot of discovery work. We sat down with Brian. Really was able to, I think, send us some of the call recordings. And a big part of what we did is kind of analyze the agent experience, because if you want to get your customers to actually engage with the virtual agent and not just hang up or scream agent, 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 it's really about identifying and personifying the brand. And that was a big part of what we did for Gold Nugget. And that's really why we were able to get kind of high levels of containment from day one. And really, if you focus the objective of the virtual agent around customer experience as opposed to cost savings obviously have to be a factor in this, revenue generation. But if you really delight the customer in the conversation, they're going to stay automated for a longer period of time. So when we talk about the containment, is really answering questions that come into a casino 24/7, 365. So when you think about some of the crazy calls that we've had at 1, 2, 3 a.m. Hey, what's your limit on blackjack, pontoon 21? Where are the roulette tables? Who can I play against, type of thing. All those types of questions, because of the way our technology is built, enables us to deploy very quickly. We don't have to anticipate what the caller is going to say. So this is really next level kind of generation when we think about what the virtual agent can do. And as a company, what we believe at right now is that the virtual agent is almost at a point where it can surpass the ability of a human. So if you think about a human that's just come online, Brian's had a lot of issues hiring and training people. Just to find those people to begin with is very, very difficult. But then for them to become proficient, let's say navigating the directory of the casino, finding the right place to send the call, even providing the right and consistent answers is a very, very difficult challenge, which some of the things that we've been able to overcome. But Nathan, if you want to jump to the next one. So really in terms of what we have scoped out for the future, I was actually having a great conversation with Brian over a coffee. And what we're looking to do is focus on reservations next. So we've built a partial reservation flow. We'll be able to show you that as part of a demo today. But really, the sky's the limit when we consider it. And a big part of the reservations, what we're looking at is also cross-selling and upselling specific packages within the hotel. So let's say, for example, somebody dials in looking for a base rate or a comp room, for example. We can turn around and say, well, actually, did you know you can get the pool room for an extra $25? So we can actually leverage information in your back office systems to get smarter about what the customers are doing and push the most relevant products and services that somebody's more likely to opt into. And we're looking to do this across various channels. We talked a little bit today about SMS, combining it and looking at kind of an omni-channel approach, including web chat, so you can really start to transform what your customers are doing. Once you kind of sync up all those channels as well, you kind of start to build like these customer profiles, this one vision of the customer, which is kind of what we have in terms of an idea for Landry's and Golden Nugget. And then past the Landry's brand, I mean, where our next kind of foothold, I think, will be is in food ordering. So Brian anticipates, I think, about like 1.5 million phone calls per year for food ordering. So the ability to handle like the various ways that people might say, hey, what do you have? What's the biggest steak that you have? Rather than looking for a specific product name, really aligns to the technology and what we bring to the table to be able to automate those calls and kind of drive revenue for the restaurant locations as well. But yeah, so what we can do now is listen to a demo. I've actually got what we built for Gold Nugget here. Sorry, it's on my laptop, but I'll play it, and then it'd be great to get some of your feedback and see what you guys think.
I like, just while you're putting that up there, I just want to say that when we started first taking calls and we're understaffed, we were abandoning 50+% of our calls of these calls that came in, and it was very challenging. And we've dropped that down to about, because there's still about 13% that comes out. We still have some abandons, but I'm abandoning maybe 3 to 4% of my calls now. So the calls get answered immediately, get the help they need immediately, and get taken care of right away. The assistant has never called out sick, doesn't have COVID, doesn't get into these things, and it's just been awesome. And these guys have been I know they have a lot more clients, but they treat me like I'm their only one. So they've been awesome to work with.
Oh, you are number one, Brian.
Hi, thanks for calling Golden Nugget Las Vegas. This call may be recorded. What can I do for you today?
Hi, can I speak to reservations?
Sure. Would you like to make a new reservation, or do you already have one?
I am making a new one.
Let me take a few details to see what deals we have. What date will you be arriving?
Well, can I make sure this is going to be a wheelchair room?
Of course. We have accessible rooms. We also have wheelchairs and scooters to rent. I'll take a few details now and then pass you over to the team who can help you get the right room.
Okay, so I'm going to arrive on the 10th of June.
And how many nights would you like to stay?
It depends. Do you do a late checkout?
We can extend your checkout time until 2 p.m. for $55. Any later is subject to availability.
Okay, let's say 5 nights.
How many adults and children?
There's going to be 3 adults.
How many children in total?
No children. No children.
Great. Finally, do you have a player's card or are you a member of the 24 Karat Club?
No, not with me.
Great. I'll send your info over to the reservations team and transfer you now. Thanks for calling, and please hold the line. Hi.
So great. So that's an example of what we're working on right now with Gold Nugget. And so some of the key things about that call flow, if you think about how unpredictable that caller was, a lot of voice systems at the moment, they focus you on a train track. They focus you down a single path. But the customers have those niggling questions in the back of their head. Well, look, can this be a wheelchair room? Is there going to be late checkout? Things like that. We see it all the time. And that ability to handle those types of calls enables you to automate more. And so also what you can do is when you leverage, let's say, virtual agents as well as human agents, you can almost include tricky kind of upsell situations. So when that call gets transferred to the live agent, we can transfer all the context of the call. So when they pick up the phone, say, oh, hi, Mr. Stein, I see you want to do this, this, and this, and this. Did you know I've got this great offer for you? It's a pool room, deluxe corner suite, for example, maybe for an extra $100 a night. Would you like to go do it? And so the agents are actually kind of empowered to sell more and focus on what they're good at rather than doing the more monotonous tasks, which is just collecting the information. But what we can also do is do kind of full reservations. And anytime they have questions like, oh, is there a gym? Is there a spa? Like, could I add, let's say, pool tickets to the room as well, things like that. All those types of additional upsell or, let's say, features you can add as part of the application. It just depends on, let's say, what's enabled on your data side, so the point of sale system. So when you think about what we do to kind of build these things, if you kind of think like, wow, this sounds pretty cool, I'd like one. The first thing that we do is we do a very, very detailed discovery. So we look at what call types you have, what type of volumes you're getting, where you're struggling in terms of customer service, where you're struggling in terms of abandonments, for example. And then we kind of basically build a solution or start scoping a solution to address those concerns. So we identify what your calls are. Not every reservation flow is going to be the same. So we look for your specific processes, your business rules, and then we basically understand what technical integrations that we need. And that basically formulates, a business case as well as a design document to basically say, okay, yes, it is going to improve my customer satisfaction. The technical integrations are there, and here's the business case to do it. So you kind of have like a no-nonsense idea of whether it's going to add value to the business. So yeah, so this is really just kind of a summary of what we talked about, but it'd be great to see if you guys have any questions or comments or feedback about kind of what we showed you today. Yeah, so how do you measure abandonment versus navigate it through? You can measure that with average handle time. So what you can do is somebody abandons right within, let's say, 10 seconds of picking up, really easy to detect. But if you've played back a couple of FAQs, then typically that will count as a contained call, because we've actually got, I can play another example of somebody dialing in, giving us their complete life story about how they're just looking for a large parking, but he's like, oh, I'm going to stay in my Sprinter van. We give him the answer and he just hangs up.
But that was my issue, right? Because I didn't want, we've all had to go through those types of experiences. And that was my main number one, was it's got to be good experience. And I reviewed 6 or 7 different. I did a lot of diligence with 6 or 7 different companies. They played me their voice bots, and they sounded like the ones that I had challenges with a lot. And these guys were completely different. It was a more of an interaction. I didn't feel at all like it wasn't understanding me. And we've had some where it was going to the wrong place. Yep. And so we identify this and we find out what the key words are that to get it, make sure we get that swapped, and they get them, they change them, and we've very, very easily, very quickly done. So it's been a good experience. I'm not saying I don't listen to, we're taking 40,000 calls a month, right? So I don't listen to all of them to see, hey, who is frustrated on here? But it's, this is a very simple call. Can you transfer me to Vic and Anthony's? Can you transfer me to housekeeping? Can you transfer me to the pool? Yeah. So no, we don't have that one in our. So that's a new one. We'll have to add that one.
Yeah. It's not a bad.
It's we went through a list of through the calls that we do have. Went through a list of about 20 frequently asked questions, and we were able to come up with the answers to respond to those. And then if they say they want to speak to an agent, we make sure we've got the information we need. If they can't handle it, it goes right to an agent.
You don't say, when they say agent, you don't say, sure, but if I ask you just 8 more questions, then maybe I'll think about transferring you to agent. I got to tell you, I was impressed with one bullet point you had up there, which was capturing the business processes and rules. Like, so many people don't get that.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a plain vanilla and start to try to
Yep.
train it with you by making a lot of mistakes. And you said 87% from day one.
Yep.
But it's got to have improved with more training since then.
It really hasn't. I mean, it stayed very consistent since then. We've had a few weeks where maybe it dropped down to 82, 83%. Some days it goes up to over 90%, but it stayed pretty average, right around 87%. So we captured it. And I, like I said, I wanted 40. Figured 40 to 50%, and then it would learn and grow. But it was boom right from the beginning, and it works. Like I said, I was way exceeded my expectations.
A big part of the technical differentiation is our pre-trained machine learning models that require a very, very minuscule amount of data to get to a high level of performance compared to the more typical approaches that you could use, because there you kind of have to build that data. You'd start low, bad experience initially, you'd have to go and annotate data, put it back in, retrain. It's an arduous process. If you start up higher, then, as Brian says, you may improve. In many deployments, we don't start that high. It was
a simple call, right? Yeah, I mean, this is for the most part, is people just want to transfer to somewhere else or a simple question. So, probably 30% of them are they call in because they want reservations, and so we get them over to reservations. And we haven't quite got to the demo that he played, as far as or you haven't played that demo about taking the reservations and taking the information. Yeah, you did. Taking that information, right?
Tell me all that information went to the agent.
So that gets
no repeats.
So that's being delivered to the agent screen and pops in the agent screen when they get the call. So
and the way that we build these things as well is very much we enable you to take a baby step, because we understand that conversational AI, when you go big bang, is sometimes difficult. You don't want to have that massive outlay. So when we spoke with Brian, it was very much a proof of value, where we work with a small subset of calls, show you it can work, and then basically use that internally, because also getting resources internally can be difficult. And when somebody sees a project like this, they go, wow, it's talking robots, pretty cool stuff. And then you get the resources, and you can start building it out from there.
Right. That's happened. My CFO was, they were pretty skeptical of doing this. He liked the idea, but didn't know we could do what we did. And after he saw the completion, what it's done, he said, yeah, let's expand this to other areas. So we're very excited about where it's going.
Cool. Any other questions?
We have 2 questions online. Would you be able to talk about the cost of building something like this?
It depends.
If you're interested, send an email to.
So
Cost of building, or they had deploying?
yeah, building, deploying.
No,
The way-
it's an online question, so it's just cost of building.
The way-
But both are interesting.
the way that we work, we have a price for build. We have a price per minute. We try and keep the price for build. We typically try and share that cost. Our goal is to really get as many minutes through the platform as possible. We think the application's pretty cool. I mean, we love doing this stuff, and we just want to see it kind of expand across use cases and get some real presence.
And for the majority of hospitality use cases, for many financial services ones, insurance, we've got things pre-built.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're ready and good to go. So if you work with IPsofts, Nuances, and similar old school competitors, prepare an arm and a leg for the build for something that starts at 30%. Here, we don't need that much data. We don't need to do that much work, so it's a lot cheaper to start.
I will tell you, I mean, very reasonable from my perspective, but from a per minute perspective, it's about a quarter of what I pay an agent, and I don't have to worry about staffing it.
You don't
I'm
have to talk
retraining,
about that.
right? Right. So I don't have to retrain. I mean, that's the cost of how retraining people all the time and attrition and retraining. So it's when you start factoring all that stuff in, it becomes the ROI is definitely there.
Is there a second question online?
Share a time when PolyAI hasn't worked so well. I don't think we really have one.
Oh, come on.
No, I think every deployment has challenges. Initially when we started working together, I mean, we say we can work as fast as you can. Brian's team had kind of a lot of people that weren't necessarily too familiar with SIP. And so as we did a lot of education. I mean, Brian's almost become a SIP expert now, which has been great. But there's always going to be challenges, but we haven't come across an issue that we haven't been able to solve just yet. And it really goes down to that discovery process. It's like I was talking about. We try and, because obviously we don't want to build something that's not going to work. If we build the virtual agent, find out you don't have the APIs, well, nobody's winning, right? Because we're not going to getting minutes through the platform, we're not getting calls. So we do a lot of diligence, like Brian was saying up front, just to make sure this stuff is going to work before we actually pull the trigger and put it into deployment.
We gave you a directory of everybody in our Las Vegas hotel and every department, every person, and then we obviously found as people were calling in and asking certain questions and making sure that it was trained to go to the right departments, because they'd ask for an operator and it would go to the hotel manager, right? So, but we identified those issues very quickly through the process, and we're able to change. Hey, if they say this keyword, it goes to this number instead of this number, and so yeah, there were some of those initially changing, but I haven't in the last 2 months. I haven't had anybody in Las Vegas say, "Hey, I'm getting calls to the wrong place." So it's been running very, very smoothly.
That manager, the operator going to the manager is a good example of the online person is asking something that's minor.
Right. So we did have those, yeah. But it wasn't necessarily their fault. It was wrong. We sent it somewhere. It was just training it to understand those keywords was the issue.
Any more questions? Anything else online, Aaron? Cool. Awesome. So I guess we'll wrap up there. I mean, just to kind of summarize, I mean, our tagline is really superhuman customer experiences. I think AI is really at a point now where it can surpass the human agent, and this stuff works. And I would struggle to find any other system out there that can do what we do. And just want to say big thanks to Brian for joining us. Drove up from Houston, so thank you very much. It's been great working with you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you guys.
Cool.